Welcome to Credit Unions Forum, where we discuss leadership, innovation, culture, and the future of the credit union movement. Today's conversation is incredibly timely across the industry. We're seeing experienced leaders retire, talented professionals transition into new roles, and organizations asking an important question: who is next? To help answer that question, I'm joined with two outstanding leaders who are creating strategic solutions around recruitment, leadership growth, and coaching. Janice Shisler from Jspire and Jane Fontaine from Jane Fontaine Coaching have formed a strategic alliance focused on helping credit unions not only recruit talent, but build and develop next generation of leaders. Janice, Jane, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Greg. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Alrighty, to begin with, I figured I'd ask some quick questions for Janice. Industry shift. Janice, we're hearing more conversations around the silver tsunami of retirements in financial services. What are you seeing firsthand in the credit union space?
Yeah, I mean, it has been such a many years of building succession within the organizations. And, now we're seeing leaders who have been in profitable, growing organizations who now want to become CEOs. So what we've done is we've really focused our efforts on our recruitment to help build from the previous leaders within credit unions who were very successful in what they did and grew their credit union, amazing leadership. Now we're tasked to find that next generational group of leaders to take on to those roles. So
How's that changed over the last few years, would you say, in leadership roles?
I would say the last few years tremendously. It's really gone at least, I would say even a 360 because there's just a lot of talent out there that now that they've experienced what it's like to, maybe they started off as a VP, now they're promoted into a COO role, given more responsibility. Now it's time for them to really take on the challenge of becoming a CEO of a credit union. And a lot of the talent I've seen and I'm speaking to, it's about the membership. It's about, caring for the members. It's about the credit union's philosophy on how to drive those businesses and those initiatives to really enhance the member experience. So when they put that in the forefront, that's what's exciting to them.
Okay. Um, Kind of taking that a little bit deeper.
Mhm.
Are credit unions placing more emphasis today on culture fit, um, emotional intelligence and adaptability versus just years of experience?
I would say a combination of both. But what I also would say a lot of credit unions are faced with, their aging demographic of their membership. So a great deal of them are saying, we need to grow our members, but, we have maybe they're a closed seg group or, their membership is, there's no way to expand their membership unless they change their charter and some boards really like who they serve and
Sure.
they're true to that. uh, and one of the challenges that I also see is loan growth lending. There's three things that they want to do. They want to grow membership, they want to grow loans, and they want to increase assets, but they don't want to necessarily be a merger candidate. I mean, they're true to their field of membership. So those are some of the challenges that, some boards are facing right now, and even credit unions in general. How do they grow and how do they make money, but still stay confined to their original field of membership?
Now you're talking to credit unions looking to fill roles, senior leadership, CEO roles. Are you seeing qualities in the next generation of emerging credit union leaders that are similar?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Many, many years ago, as I mentioned to you, I've been recruiting in credit unions for 29 years, Greg, and it has been amazing and I absolutely love it. We had in the placement of those previous credit union CEOs, they've all retired, but they have been, dynamic. They have been, They really valued the people and the employees, that they didn't look to just grow a credit union for the sake of growing. I think, as we've transitioned into the future, that has changed some. The landscape has changed, and, now we're, finding talent even through these M&A credit unions where we're finding them as potential recruits for other organizations that are in growth mode. And that has been a very positive experience as well.
Okay, I got one more quick question for you
Sure.
before I'm going to switch over to Jane.
Mhm.
What's one mistake organizations make when trying to recruit leadership talent?
I would say one mistake is not fully vetting your candidate or understanding, what they bring to the table unless you have a true passion for what they exude. And I also think, what is the ultimate end goal for them? Are they going to stay committed for 1 to 2 years and then move on? Or are they going to be part of the succession plan that
And
carries that credit union to the next level?
yeah, and stay there for a while and help build
Mhm.
and develop it.
Yeah.
Okay, Jane, got some questions for you, and then we'll kind of get into both of what you guys are doing together. But
Okay.
Jane, from leadership development becoming important as recruitment itself, why is coaching such a critical piece of the equation today?
Well, I've spent 10 plus years in the credit union space, so I had a great opportunity to lead, the people and culture functions. And so I've worked with a lot of different leaders. And leaders are not, some people say, oh, leaders are naturally born. Well, that's not necessarily true because leadership is
I
something you
definitely
learn,
agree.
right?
Leadership is
So
something that can be
you can
trained and
learn.
something that yes.
Well, and I'm sure you've worked at places, Greg, where people are put in leadership and it's almost like, good luck, hope it works out for you, you know. And
Exactly. Yeah.
it's it's so important to give these, either it's an emerging leader or a leader that's moving up in their career, the tools they need to be successful. And that comes with coaching, that comes with helping them to really onboard. And, those first 90 days, and I'm sure you've heard it, are very, very critical. It sets them up for success. So it's
Oh
really
yeah.
investing. It's investing in people.
Well, in your background, so you've got HR background, correct?
Yep. I have a
Yeah, you're
25-year career in HR, and the last 10 years were spent in the credit union.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I because there's matter of fact, and the reason I know this is because my daughter's in HR.
Okay.
So when she graduated at the University of Toledo, when she
Mhm.
graduated, I got her a book, and it said, your first 100 days as an HR leader, and so I bought
Mhm.
her that book. So just like you said, your first 90, 100 days, they're
Mhm.
probably the most important when you get
Right.
in an
Mhm.
organization.
Mhm.
Now, um, what would you say are some common struggles emerging leaders face when stepping into that leadership role for the first time?
Mhm. Mhm. It's some of the challenges is wanting to change things too quickly, instead of taking the time to listen. If I'm sure your daughter who read the book, 90 days is you spend a lot of time listening, learning, connecting with people. Sometimes it's also, I don't want to say resting on your laurels, but thinking of, what got you here is going to get you there. It's different, as you become different levels of leadership, being willing to learn, being open to saying, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm here to learn. Getting a mentor. I always recommend finding a mentor. It's invaluable. I've had them in my career. I still have them in my career, even after all these years. So I find that they're not prepared. And you were asking Janice about emotional intelligence, and some of the soft skills aren't there, Greg. And
Yeah.
it's how do we develop the soft skills, which certainly is emotional intelligence is huge, and communication.
Um, Actually, we could probably take a complete sideway twist on our conversations and go
Mhm.
into soft skills, but we often talk about technical skills.
Mhm.
How important are communication, resilience, relationship building in leadership
Mhm.
today?
Well, it's absolutely essential. As you know, leaders today's world is changing so fast. You have AI. I mean, every day something's new, right? The ability to communicate effectively at all levels as a leader, being able to pivot when you have to be, resilience, obviously, especially in financial services, things change. And how do you work through something and work through it and the ability to recognize and be I find self-awareness is huge and that's what EQI will also help you see how self-aware are you as a leader, how self-aware are you that you know what your strengths are and those areas that need to be developed, and the humility to say, hey, I need to develop these things. That's huge. Yeah. And servant leadership is so big in the credit union. I mean, the credit union space is just is a wonderful space, and servant leadership cannot be. It's huge.
I I can't agree with you more on that one.
Mhm.
Now I'm sure this might be a loaded question for you, but
Okay.
how can credit unions better prepare employees today for executive leadership tomorrow?
Okay. Well, I mean, certainly it starts with you have to identify who you have to take an assessment of your organization. Who are those people that are for potential leaders? Okay. Identify who they are and how quickly they're going to be ready to move up. And if they're not ready, when will they be ready? And how, as an organization, can we help those leaders get ready? And it might be investing certainly in coaching, leadership development training. It could be external programs, internal programs, rotational programs within the organization is an excellent way that you can take an emerging leader. They rotate to different departments. They learn about all areas of the credit union. And it's taking the time to invest in your staff. And investing in staff helps you retain staff too. They want to
Yeah,
feel that you value them and you're going to invest in them. And it's not just all about money.
that reminds me, I kind of heard a little bit of a joke, and it was something like, "Hey, if we invest in our team,
Mhm,
they might leave."
mhm.
And then someone else goes, "Yeah, well, if we don't, they might stay."
That is so true. That is true.
So
Because when you think about it, Greg, historically, when there needs to be budget cuts, a lot of people run to the learning and training and development right area. Oh, let's cut that out. That should be probably one of the last places you cut because you want to retain staff. Yeah.
So, last one before we segue into
Okay.
your guys's
Sure.
strategic
Mhm.
alliance, because this is good, because that my little tongue-in-cheek joke there. Do organizations retain employees better when they invest in leadership, coaching, and career development?
Yes, because it shows that you care about their future. And sometimes, Greg, I'll be honest, you'll invest in candidates or excuse me, in employees, and then they'll eventually leave because some people are only going to wait
Sure.
so long before they can get promoted.
Yeah,
But
of
what does
course.
that say about your organization? It says that you produced a quality candidate, and
Leader.
yes, might they go to another credit union, but to me, that's branding, that's marketing, that now they're
Sure.
going somewhere else. And certainly the younger generations, Gen Z and millennials, they want you to invest in
They,
them. They
yeah.
want to learn. They want FaceTime with leaders. They want mentors. So yeah, it is a retention tool, definitely.
I've often heard that a leader isn't a leader until they've produced another leader.
I've never heard, but that's excellent. That's an excellent thing. That's so true. Yeah.
All righty. So why the alliance works. What made the strategic alliance between Jspire and Jane Fontaine Coaching such a natural fit?
Well, number one, we both are experienced leaders in our specific industry. And, we've known each other. We know Jane, we've known each other for years. And
Yeah.
we just
Mhm.
felt that, I've been on the client side, I've been on, the consulting side, working with boards. And Jane has been, there throughout, her whole credit union career with me. And when she transitioned into a consulting role, and we, worked together for a role in the East Coast, it just made sense. And Jane's like, I'm getting my coaching. I think this, and I said, Jane, all of our placements are retiring. We need to formulate a strategic alliance to help our new generation become CEOs for the betterment of the members and for the careers for credit unions in general, Greg. So we've been talking about this since October of last year, and we decided that this is a great opportunity for credit union executives or leaders to reach out to Jspire. And we have that full circle of complement with Jane, with us, and developing them, helping them, coaching them. And it just is a really win-win for anyone who wants to partner with Jspire and Jane Fontaine.
Yeah, so you're not just finding a position, but you're actually helping them develop people for future positions. And I guess
Yes,
I didn't want
absolutely.
to answer my own question, but how does combining recruiting with coaching create a stronger long-term solution for credit unions?
It does, because the relationship that people that, want to become CEOs, they're starting to tap their toe in the water. Some CEOs make it look very easy, Greg, as you know. And so they're saying, I want to be the next CEO of XYZ of $1 billion credit union. Great, but you're not going to get it your first time either. So our job is to say, that's great. You're coming in at a perfect time. There's more retirements coming in. And that's when they contact Jspire, and then the resume rewrites, the LinkedIn profiles, the coaching, is going to elevate them because they're not in that role. And with Jane's experience and my experience, we felt that the combined group could really make a significant impact. And we sort of did this indirectly before we formed our alliance with a credit union in Boston, where Jane was there. I did the CEO search. Jane was behind the scenes helping the executives with their resumes and coaching. And so it made perfect sense. And this board, was very much in desperate need for a true leader. And we felt that this really could resonate well as we start formulating new leaders to come into credit unions and, be a success.
Okay. So, what advice would you give to CEOs and executive teams that know succession planning needs attention, but they really haven't started?
Jane, you want to take that one?
Sure, sure. I have seen credit unions just like that, Greg. So it's taking, I think sometimes they haven't started because they don't know where to start. And as I said earlier, it really starts with, let's take a look at your staff. Where are they now? Identify those people with potential to move up. Are they able to move up in a year, 2 years? Where do they want to be? But a lot of it starts before that, Greg, with managers and leaders having coaching conversations with their staff, identifying what are their career goals. You need to know, is this something this person wants to do? They want to grow in leadership. Okay, partnering. So these conversations should just be continually ongoing. It's not once a year conversation. Having been on the HR side of the table for many, many years, I understand what organizations look for in leaders, where leaders might be lacking. How do we get there from A to B? And so it's taking the steps, start having those conversations, and let's start documenting a plan. I think sometimes when you say succession planning, it seems so overwhelming, but not when you start chipping away at it little by little. And that's certainly, a place that, our strategic alliance could help with as well.
Okay. Now, this will be for both of you, but what excites each of you most about the future generation of credit union leaders?
Well, I know for me, they're very passionate about giving back. That generation as a whole is very passionate about working for places they believe in. They believe in what the organization's doing, the mission. And credit unions are so skilled at giving back. The opportunity to give back to the community, whether it's in volunteering or how the credit union serves the underserved. That's what excites me, that generation. It's not all about having this big career, making all this money. Those things are all great, but it's also, does it resonate with who I am as a person and what do I think is important, my values?
I would agree with that. I would also, add to it, the new leaders, emerging leaders that are coming up are very, I don't want to say use the word hungry, but they're ready to take that next leap to become a leader and promoting the or taking care of the members. So I think it's more genuine than,
Mhm.
just growing an organization for the sake of growing. You can have all the statistics and all of the information at hand, but honestly, I think, with the credit union industry shrinking through M&A activities and regulatory distress, there are a lot of factors, right? But I think, now these new leaders say, well, let's get back to our roots.
Mhm.
What are we here about? And that's what we see a lot of these new leaders coming in and why they want to be CEOs, Greg.
One thing that I have enjoyed about this conversation with the three of us is that it's not just about filling positions, it's
Right.
about building people.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And that's what we do differently than anyone else. If there is somebody that we're working with, Jane and I continually have constant communication of, how is Janice doing or how is Jane doing? How does the resume? What is the next step? So there's no missed opportunity, Greg. Whereas others just look at people as paper. We don't look at them like that. We look at them as true leaders that can make a difference and might need a little bit more help. Because you throw your resume out there the first time, that doesn't mean you're going to get the job. So let's kind of regroup. Let's start again, but keep your chin up. And next one will be the great opportunity that you're waiting for.
Greg, if I could add on to that with Janice, now in this, it's interviewing has changed over the
Mhm.
years. Finding a job has changed, interviewing has changed. You have to really be solid in knowing what you bring to the table. How do you convey that message? Tell me about yourself. What are your success stories? It takes a lot of preparation to be successful. It's yes, you can go look at a website and you're interviewing with that company. That's great, but it really is you being able to go in there. Any candidate going in there articulating who they are, what they bring, what they've done, and the impact they have had on the organizations that they've worked with. So,
Well, leadership transitions are inevitable, but leadership development can be intentional. A huge thanks to Janice Shisler from Jspire and Jane Fontaine from Jane Fontaine Coaching for joining us and sharing insights on recruiting, coaching, and developing the next generation of credit union leaders. If today's episode brought value to you, share it with your colleagues, leadership team, or emerging leaders in your organization. Until next time, keep leading forward.